He drew pictures of cars for a hot rod magazine. He worked in the playpen making cars and trucks look mean. Then he got an offer to design a truck in styrene, and that kicked off a line of mean machines. That's how Tom Daniel kits got their start. Model cars and trucks with the coolest parts will live forever deep inside our hearts. Thank you, TD, for our childhood dream cars. The beer truck and mean machine are wicked cool. School bus and pie wagon models rule. Choppers and cars, he always gave us something new. Rommel's rod and the Red Baron T-Bucket hot rod too. That's how Tom Daniel kits got their start. Model cars and trucks with the coolest parts will live forever deep inside our hearts. Thank you, TD, for our childhood dream cars. Tarantula and the Vampire trike sat on the shelf beside the Pomper chopper bike. Troublemaker and Sweet Tea are ready for dragging. See the fun those kids in the sand crab are having. I grew up in a world where these models were king. The Tijuana taxi and pie wagon kind of things. That's how Tom Daniel kits got their start. Model cars and trucks with the coolest parts will live forever deep inside our hearts. Thank you, TD, for our childhood dream cars. Thank you, TD, for our childhood dream cars.
There we go. Now you should be able to hear us.
Why did my Zoom thing just go away? Oh, there you are. Okay, never mind.
Technology.
Lovely, just lovely.
Just lovely. Simply lovely. Well, guys, welcome aboard now that we have the audio working. And we'll have a whole bunch of stuff to cover. I know I said in the comments, and it's true, we're going to talk about problems we run into when we research our model builds. But before we get started, Ken had an interesting day, whatever that means. So he's dying to tell us about it. So, Ken, go.
Yeah, I've been waiting with bated breath to tell Max about.
Now you can tell us all, so I don't have to keep repeating it.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get to the lives. There we go. Okay.
Turn the volume down.
Yeah, I'm working on that part. Yeah.
You were supposed to do that during the pre-show.
Quiet. You could be replaced by a button that doesn't work.
No, all of us could be replaced by an AI. By a button that doesn't work. I am so going to steal that. Okay, Ken, so what's your story?
Yeah. Okay, so I went out to the boat this morning because I was going to pull the starter out. I was going to go take the starter rebuilt because after talking to my brother, we've determined that that's the root of the problems that I've been having with the boat.
Hold on, guys. His brother's a mechanic. Okay, so without telling that part, so you talk to your brother, so what does he know? Well, he's a mechanic. Well, what did he lead with that? Okay, continue.
Yeah, okay.
Mockery is the essence of friendship.
You turned it into an art form.
Thank you. Finally, someone recognizes my skills.
A very rare and valuable skill, I'm sure.
Hey, it's kept me from going places in life, by golly, and I love to be home. All right, so you got to replace the starter. You still got all your fingers and toes?
Yeah, they're all still there. That wasn't what the problem was. So I got to the boat.
Calamity Ken. You have a new call sign.
I have a new Calamity Ken.
I like that.
Well, as long as it amuses people.
And it's at your expense. That's the important part.
That's the best part. Okay, so I get out to the boat, and I didn't bring anything really with me, so I just got up to the boat, got off the dinghy, and I turn around, and the dinghy's floating away. Attached to the boat.
I didn't bring anything with me but the dinghy, and now it's floating away because somebody can't tie a knot.
I didn't tie a knot at all.
We gathered that by the whole dinghy floating away part.
Yeah, well, I forgot to hook the line up to the boat to keep the dinghy from floating away, okay? So I'm standing quickly thinking, well, it's now too far away to jump into it. I'm going to have to dive in to get the damn thing.
God, of all the days to not be there.
So, okay, but I did have the forethought to take all the electronics off of me.
Keep going, Ken.
Are you done?
No, not even close, but keep going, or we'll never get past this subject.
It gets better.
Oh, okay. That's scary. It gets better.
You have my attention.
So I have the forethought to take all of my electronic devices off me. So I take my watch off. I take my wallet out. I take my phone off.
We get it. You denuded yourself of anything that could be damaged by water. So you and your skitters and shorts or whatever.
Nope. I didn't take any clothes off. I should have, thinking about it, but I didn't think that quickly.
Ooh, let me bring a portable anchor.
So I dive into the water. Fortunately, it's not cold. It's pleasantly
Ken,
warm.
we live in Florida. I think they gathered that part.
The people up north don't know that. Anyway, so I dive in the water and I come up 2 feet from the dinghy and I reach over and I grab it and I start swimming back and I scrape my leg on the bottom of the dinghy because it's got its own ecosystem down there. Literally, there are crabs little tiny little crabs.
You know, this is how the coolest 1950 science fiction movies begin. Somebody just bloops in the water real quick. They go check the bottom of the dinghy, and then you get the monsters that conquered the earth or whatever. Keep going.
Pretty close. So I scraped my leg up. I'm like, oh, great.
Ooh, he scrapes his leg. Dun, dun,
So yeah, blood in the water now. Am I telling this story? Or are you just doing?
I'm just adding some background music. Give it some effect. Keep going.
Okay. So I pull the dinghy over. I managed to get back to the boat. Fortunately, there was very little current. Anyway, so I get out of the water. I'd already put the swim ladder down, so it made it easy to get back in. And I tie the dinghy up very firmly, making sure they ain't going anywhere this time. And I'm looking around the electronic stuff that I took off, and I discover my phone is gone.
Ruh-roh.
And I thought, maybe I left it at home today. I've been
So
known to
this
do
is
that.
why you were calling me from Debbie's phone.
But it's in the water and it doesn't float.
Worse, I'll bet it was in your pocket.
No, it wasn't in my pocket. Apparently, I took it off, and it bounced off what I laid it on top of, and managed to find its way into the water.
So you saw one of the crabs making a phone call.
The crabs
with
are
your
making
phone.
I was going to say, if you start getting phone calls, you start getting texts from Charlie the Tuna, you know. I only laugh because it happened to you. If it had happened to me, I would not be laughing because I know how much that sucks. But it happened to you, so it's freaking hilarious.
This has the makings of a great diorama. The runaway.
Somebody, Bruce, the Mystic Modeler ships. That's it. That's his groove.
God.
Blood in the water in Florida? That does not sound
Have a little
good.
character on the back of the sailboat model going like this. Very Macaulay Culkin.
Very, very, very similar. Yeah. Now,
Max,
if
Max,
Hmm?
why don't you call his phone and see what happens?
nothing happens.
He already
Got
tried.
She tried calling me all day.
Oh, okay.
So I'm down there, you're going to hear.
Just doesn't answer. Well, there's another cell phone that I had many, many years ago in Key West that the fish are using also.
And they're both together in Davy Jones's cell phone locker.
I'm sure mine aren't the only one down there. Anyway, so if I had thought about taking at least my shirt off before I jumped in the water, my shirt would have dried. So I'm soaking wet. So I take my shirt off and I lay it over the lifelines on the sunny side so it would dry off. And I go on down below, and I'm going to hook up the generator so I can turn the air conditioner on so it would dry the boat off and me. So I decide the shorts are just way too wet, so I take them off and I just wring them out. You know,
Hey, Family Channel here.
so I go back up in just my underwear and I hook up the generator to the boat and I get it going.
Oh, this story just got unfunny.
Yeah, this is like Das Boot.
So now you're running around your saggy little skitters with all your clothes up, so your boat looks like a trailer park with the clothesline
Oh
up.
well, I take the shorts downstairs, but I leave my.
But in
my
your
shirt
case,
up.
Ken, it's not a trailer park; it's a sailor park.
What's
Come
your
on, that was pretty good.
All right, yeah.
Said it's not a trailer park; it's a sailor park.
Anyway, so I never did get to taking the starter motor out because I was busy drying off, and I jumped in the shower and rinsed all the crud off of me. And then a little while later, it started raining rather hard.
You could have taken a freshwater shower right there on the deck.
I could have gone out on the aft part of the boat and just stood out there and went, wash me off. Anyway,
Army shower, baby.
Meanwhile, Nathan says at this point, Ken is starting to look like the Amelia Earhart of boating.
Ken, I'll let you in on a little secret. Something they taught us in the Army. Now,
yes.
I'm not saying we did it that often, but when you're on a long patrol or something, you come to a river. In the movies, you always see them wading across the river. And if you're tactical, if there's a bad guy land, you have to have everything ready to go, weapon ready. But if you're in an area where, you know, you're just like doing like cross-country march, but the British SAS does this too. They teach you to strip butt naked, wrap all your clothes up, stick them in a plastic bag, cross the river, dry off on the other side, put your clothes back on. Dry boots, dry socks, relatively. I mean, you've been wearing. But believe it or not, if you strip your skidders ahead of time, but I would actually recommend, because I know where your boat parks. It's not like anybody's. You've been better off to just go butt naked and just skinny dip into the water. This is Florida. No one gives a crap, you know.
Nope.
But so
moral of the story: don't own a boat.
yeah.
No,
Just
no.
when you thought it was safe to go back in the water.
The boat brings me so much joy.
Yeah, I can tell.
Well, somehow show day.
Anyway, so then it rained and my shirt got soaking wet again.
What the heck? Another moderator just handled this. The crowd made a comment that I can't see. It says show. I'm hitting show, and it says another mod. I'm the freaking moderator. How's another moderator handling this? Did you do that?
No.
The crowd. Ken, point of order. Sailors wear skivvies. Civilians wear underwear.
Underwear.
Well, you're a sailor, so it's a skivvy. You're literally on a sailboat. You're more of a sailor than anyone in the Navy that's not on the USS Constitution.
Yeah, I'm glad they straightened that out. So
3-hour tour. In this case, a 3-hour detour.
So today cost you like $1,500. Is that what you're telling us?
well, I
Not
didn't
including
get
the new
a
starter.
expensive cell phone, but I decided to just go ahead and buy one unlocked, so that when we go to other countries, we can do eSIM.
Yep, that's a better move.
Yeah. So that's what I did. We bought one on Amazon, although it was a $250.
No, Slugo. I'm answering the question. Okay. Steve is in Delaware. Ken and I are in Florida, but Steve is from Nuevo York. Manhattan, right?
That's enough trauma to be a YouTuber.
But Steve, I'm the airline pilot, but Steve's the best traveled of any of us. He pretty much was that old Johnny Cash song. I've been everywhere, man.
It's
He's
more
probably
like
got almost
Willie
as much-
Nelson on the road again.
Mm-hmm.
Steve's probably got almost as many air miles as you do, Max.
Yeah, and he's gone to a lot of places. I've been to Europe and New Zealand and a few other places, South America. But Steve spent a bunch of time in Asia, and I went for like a week in Munich. You were there long enough to insult the Germans at the Nuremberg Toy Show.
That's right. Oh,
Go ahead, tell him.
He asked a stupid question. I'm over at the Nuremberg Toy Show, and at the time I'm working for a toy company, and so how you work it in Europe is you partner with another company in Europe in each country, and they represent your product, and you work with them. So we're in Germany, and the president of the company that we partner with in Germany, who shall remain nameless, oh, the hell with it, it's Shuko. And this guy comes
It's not
over
like they
and
can fire
introduces-
you now.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
I'm really going to do you now.
Comes over and he introduces himself to me and he says, "Is this the first time that you've ever been to our country?" And I said, "Yes, it is." And they said, "How do you like it?" And I said, "It's a very beautiful country." I said, "I'm looking forward to seeing more of it." And he says to me, "Have any members of your family ever been here?" And I said, "Yes, they have." I said, "My father was to Germany and he told me about how pretty it was." He says, "And in what capacity was your father here?" And I said, "He was part of the invading forces in 1945. And he looked at me and he said, "I see." And he said, "Well, have a nice day." And I never saw him again.
By the way, Slugo, although Steve is not from California, he did just rescue his son from California.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about Delaware being a better place to be in California. California is, although it's run by maniacs, it's pretty beautiful. I mean,
It is.
or as my son said to me, because he relocated due to his wife's job, they relocated back east, and he said to me, he said, "It's really expensive to live here, and they're crazy." He said, but it's worth it.
Well, look at Mike. Our good friend
Yeah.
Mike Machat's been in California since '71. And look, I fly to California to visit with Mike. And I swear, Steve, as God is my witness, of all the wonderful things we do, and Mike is one of my favorite guys to hang out with. But of all the wonderful things we do, I'm not sure that going to Bob's Big Boy isn't my favorite. You know,
Well,
and I've only been there twice, but it's
it's good.
Obviously,
It's
it's some
different.
place to go eat.
well,
You don't-
that's true, Ken. Actually, the food's okay, nothing wrong with it, but it's the cars and the atmosphere. It's okay. You guys have heard me harp on this before, but I'll get through this quick.
All
I
right.
feel like I was left out of the car scene because I'm from a small town in the panhandle of Florida. There just wasn't, a hot rod scene or anything. All of us were driving second, third hand, mid 70s beaters and everything. And you turn on the TV and everything was made in California, Dragnet, Adam 12, Emergency. I mean, Hollywood. So all the TV shows take place in California. So you see this mythical land. But the big thing was the music and the hot rod scene. Okay, the car, because cars, America has a car culture unlike any other. In fact, hopefully we're going to have John Kitt with us either next week or here before too long. And he's up in Canada, but he's like you, Steve. I'm gonna have you two go at it because you guys are both the ones with the encyclopedic car knowledge. I'm looking to see how that's gonna. Me and Ken will just sit back with the popcorn. Yeah, but but I want to paint a picture for it. I've touched on this before, and I apologize, but the world came to me through our television. I hadn't ever been further than Tallahassee. I think I've been to Jacksonville one time. So you're talking about somebody who did not get out of the county that often. I'm going to Bainbridge,
You sure
Georgia.
made up for that, didn't you?
Huh?
You sure made up for that, didn't you?
Probably one of the reasons I wanted to be, travel for a living. But anyway, California was like this mythical place where, the gods ate ambrosia and everything. It's just like, it was another world. And by the time I was old enough to get out there, that was all past. It was the California we know today with the super restrictive laws and blah, 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 blah. And to be able to go to Bob's Big Boy and catch what may be the very last vestige. In the early 70s, that guy went and photographed the California car scene up down in Ventura and everything. Well, what are you laughing at?
Fran
says, I feel like I'm back in high school trigonometry class. All that's being discussed is tangents. And Natasha, you have it right. And In-N-Out is the best.
I tried them animal style and they were good, but and I like In-N-Out Burger a lot. But by the way, did you know they're relocating? I think it's their headquarters or something.
They're going to Nashville. And so they're going
Christ, when they chase In-N-Out Burger out of frickin' California, at least their headquarters, I mean, they're keeping, jeez, But, one of the best things about hanging out with Mike is being a historian and running a museum, not only the aviation history, but he's just so in tune with everything, and he's a car guy also. So it's like I'm finally getting to sort of smell the vapors of what I missed. And Steve, I know you were part of the car scene back then, so you got to enjoy it firsthand. And
hey, look, I grew up loving cars, and when I was a teenager, I mean, it was the 70s, and that's when muscle cars were at the height of their, popularity. And, my good friend, who I'm still friends with today, who owned the local speed shop, I mean, we went pro stock racing in NHRA in the, early 80s through the end of the 80s. I mean, we did some really good stuff, and we always enjoyed cars. We were always working on cars. We were, we had the cutting edge technology of the time available to us and used it. And, I was different than a lot of the guys I hung out with because I liked foreign cars as well as domestic cars, and really they kind of liked mostly domestic cars. They were more into drag racing. I like drag racing, but I was into Formula One and sports cars and things like that. I was a little bit more, I guess, rounded in my car fanaticism than they were.
But by your own admission, though, that foreign cars back then were POSs from a maintenance standpoint.
Well, not all of them.
Okay, what was one? We know anything British had a nightmare electrical system. Okay.
Porsches.
And I know your opinion of Ferraris back then was, great performers, but...
No. No, I had a good friend...
Well, you expect anything German to be built like a Panzer.
Yeah, well, the problem with German cars is that, you know, if one wire can do it well, they figure 10 wires can do it 10 times better.
I thought
And
that
all
was
it
the
does-
British philosophy.
No, no, no. The British philosophy is once you turn the key, it won't start. They have the Lucas Lord of Darkness.
Oh, the
electrical
Prince of
system.
Darkness, yes.
Yeah.
I wrote a BSA. I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, guys, to get back on what we were going to talk about tonight before I can't say we were so rudely interrupted. We just distracted ourselves. It's what we do. It's a superpower. So,
You never know what's going to happen.
well, that's a whole, I put in the description what I plan for us to talk about. At some point, we'll probably get to it.
And then that gets thrown out in the first 30 seconds.
Well, we usually loop back to it in a sort of a Holman orbit. But anyway, I'm trying to sound impressive. A Holman orbit is where you... Never mind.
I want to bring up one thing. The crowd said something a little while ago. He said, yeah, the best thing about California is when you cross back into Arizona.
you used to be able to buy a T-shirt at Fort Campbell and probably every military base. And every guy who was getting out of the Army, they sold them at the PX. And is that happiness is Fort Campbell in your rearview mirror? To the point when I left Fort Campbell, I looked in the rearview mirror and yep, I feel good. All of us have built models. Well, let me rephrase that. Some people do not build for accuracy at all, okay? But a lot of us have tried to make models that were accurate. And a lot of times especially with the invention of the internet, which has only made things actually in a way worse, in my opinion, we find ourselves with, what do you do when you're building a model of something, you want it to look like a real vehicle that existed, you want it to be accurate, so you research it and you start getting conflicting information from different resources. Now, obviously, this is primarily with militaria, but it can be with anything. It can be with any car or anything else. I, as you guys are painfully aware, just did that Betty bomber that was number 323, the one that Yamamoto was shot down in. And I grabbed a couple of sources and made it accordingly. Now, I did overlook a few things that I only caught recently, so that airplane may go back in the paint booth for a few repairs. Not just the yellow leading edges, but also somehow I missed that the inside of the engine nacelles are supposed to have the black glare shields on them. Although, quite frankly, it looks fine sitting on the shelf. I don't know if I'll do that or not. But my point being that I find out, and let me go ahead and put the picture up here. G4M tail. Okay, here we go. All right, guys, these are photographs. Let me explain what I put on this slide. The top is the box art for the G4M1 Model 11 Mitsubishi Betty bomber that Yamamoto was in when he was killed. But you'll notice the picture below it, same airplane, same basic paint scheme. It's aircraft 323, but it has a white tip on the tail. All right. Now, this is going to turn into one of those things where something of what just minor consequence, and this is the kind of stuff that drives model builders apeshit. Okay? I'm going, wait a minute. I have this professionally artist done artwork that shows a white tip tail, and I have the box art that shows the fin as being completely green. It's the only difference between the two airplanes, except maybe for the shade of green. And
Craig Swain says, I cite Machat's rule.
absolutely.
I've heard that before.
Frickin' lutely. Machat's law. No two airplanes are painted the same. No two airplanes are painted exactly the same. But in this case, we have the same airplane at the same point in history with a different paint job. Now, if you look at the upper right and the lower right, you will see both an old photo and a new photo of the wreckage of Yamamoto's plane. The old black and white photo at the bottom, and I want to thank Pacific Rex for some of these pictures. The bottom right photo shows 323, but the upper right, that's all stripped away because souvenir hunters got to it. But that's what?
I think it's Frank Sabo who says, yeah, the picture on the right shows the tail's a little rusty.
Yeah. By the way, Frank, thank you very much for the gifts. We're going to be talking about that later. I made a mistake on the video today. You know what? if I go off on that tangent, it'll take me a while to loop back. Let's just stay focused on this. I'm going to get to that. So, I actually met Rex Barber, the man that is officially credited with shooting down Yamamoto. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But I could not. I found a photograph the other day, and for some reason, I didn't save it because I figured I'll find it later. Now I can't find it on the internet. But the top of the tail was clipped off in the crash, probably going through a tree or something. All right? I found a photograph that showed the wreckage, but unlike this photo on the bottom right, it was pulled back far enough you could see the entire tail. And the angle of the sunlight coming through the trees made the top of the tail glow, and it looked like it had a white tip on it. But in fact, it was just glare on the low quality film stock that the Japanese were using during the war. And I think that confused a lot of people into thinking the tail had a white tip, when in fact the tip was knocked off. That's my detective's report. Now you see the chair on the lower left and you're kind of like, well, you know, what's the big deal? It's a seat. That is a seat Yamamoto was found dead in at the wreckage. Okay? You will notice there is not a bullet hole in it unless it's where that card is at, and I found out it's not. The Japanese autopsy of Admiral Yamamoto said that he took a .50 caliber round to the left jaw, which killed him instantly, and another one to the left shoulder. But when people found the seat and put it in the museum with no bullet holes in it, they started saying that can't be right because there's no bullet hole in the seat. What they did not take into account was that that seat only has a half back on it. And you can even see it in the model when you build it. When Yamamoto would have been sitting there, his shoulder would have been above the top of the seat. So yes, he could have taken one to the head and the left shoulder without it hitting the seat. Some people thought that the Japanese doctors just made all that up because they didn't want their vaunted admiral to be killed in a plane crash. They wanted him to be killed by gunfire, but evidence shows that he actually was. Now, why is this important? Oh, let me count the ways. So, Thomas Lanphier and Rex Barber, the two guys that shot down Yamamoto. All right, now I met Barber. Now, a lot of you guys, history buffs, probably already know this, but Lanphier was initially credited with the kill, and he claimed it till the day he died. Barber has since been credited with the kill. So, what the heck happened? You see Lanphier giving little hand signals. I went and watched interviews with both of them, and of course I got to speak with Barber about it, and neither one of them is lying. They are both telling the truth from their perspective. But if you go watch this video of Lanphier, the story, and I went through high school believing this because all the books I'd read and everything. Lanphier said he was clearing his guns. He looked up and Yamamoto's plane was smoking. He'd hit it by accident and brought it down. No, he didn't, but he thought he did. Here, and mind you, this is my interpretation. I am not stating this as historical fact. This is strictly my interpretation. Lanphier, when Barber and Lanphier were part of a 4-airplane hunter-killer group that were sent, 16 planes were sent. They were supposed to shoot down Yamamoto's airplane. The others were there to fend off any fighters, and Yamamoto did have 6 Zero fighter escort. So there were 6 Japanese Zeros. Well, when they went after him, a bunch of the Zeros jumped on him, so Lanphier pointed his airplane up at the Zeros, squirted off some ammo at him to flush him off, which it did. It brushed him off. Barber had to break off at the time. So Lanphier puts his nose down, sees Yamamoto's airplane in front of him, looks down, pushes the trigger to clear his guns, and he even says, and it's what he's talking about with his hand gestures here, that he had to pop the flaps and pump the rudders back and forth to slow the plane down to keep from overshooting. And he goes, I looked down, cleared my guns one more time, looked up, and the plane was smoking. I went past Yamamoto's airplane behind, expecting the tail gunner to shoot at me. He didn't. and then the wing snapped off and the plane went in the jungle. Lanfear honestly believed he shot him down. What he did not know was that while he was doing that, Barber had gotten behind Yamamoto's airplane and stitched it up, starting with the right engine, which began smoking through the fuselage and into the left engine. According to Barber, the plane spun out of control, which would be consistent with a piece of wing coming off, and the plane goes in the jungle. Apparently, Lanfear came by just about the same time. But, and the reason that this seat becomes important is because had Lanfear hitting from the side on an almost 90-degree deflection shot, the bullets obviously would have come to the side, but according to the Japanese doctors who did the autopsy on Yamamoto, he'd taken the rounds from behind. Like I said, one to the left jaw, one to the left shoulder, which dovetails with Barber's story. Lanfear then pulled up, Barber pulled up, the Zeros jumped on him. Barber goes out and sees another Betty. They were surprised when they got there. They pop out, and there's two Bettys, not one. And they both claimed to shot down Zeros, but the Japanese didn't have any Zero losses, although one of them was shot up pretty bad, which is not uncommon in combat for people to hit an airplane, think they shot it down, and they didn't. So two of the guys jump on the other one, which had Admiral Ugaki on board. He hauls butt out over the water trying to get away, gets down low over the water. And so low that according to Barber, you could see the wake in the water from the props. And two guys jumped on it. Barber was the third one. He finished it off, so that was a three-way kill. It goes in the water, comes apart. In fact, according to Barber, it actually broke up before it hit the water, which might have saved the guys in back because the pilot and Ugaki and one other crew member actually survived, came bobbing up. And Ugaki and the pilot both wrote about it after the war. Then the P-38s hauled butt for home. One of them lost an engine. I don't know if it was the gunfire maintenance or mechanical, but that was, I think, Lieutenant Hines. And a PBY saw a P-38 trailing smoke heading off, but they don't know what happened to him. Maybe he wounded and bled out or passed out, or maybe the Zeros got him because although he could fly on one engine, he wasn't going to outrun the Zeros on it. And he's the one member of the flight they lost. But all this disinformation, because honest people telling the story from their perspective conflict. And the same thing happens when you're trying to build the model. 70 years later, people have faulty recollections, old scratchy photographs, and a lot of guesswork, which makes making an accurate model of something that happened 8 decades ago difficult. Now, I have nothing but respect for both of these guys, but I think Barber's right. He shot him down. Lanfear's honest. He thought he shot him down. I just don't think he did. And you look at that top photo. That's Lanfear on the left and Barber on the right. That's another lieutenant between them. These guys are sticking their necks out every day. I got nothing but respect for them. But and later in life, they're trying. What?
One of the things you brought up earlier is the quality of the film that took the picture.
Yeah, it was Japanese film stock, which was notoriously bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into, when you're trying to build a kit to some degree of accuracy. When you're building a car, unless it's a race car, you pretty much go by what you saw on the street.
Well, even if it is a race car, let's say I told you, hey, Steve, I want you to build me one of Smokey Unix cars. This one.
No. What I'm saying is, if it's a race car, you do a lot more research to be accurate than if it's a street car.
Oh, yeah.
Because you see a street car, you see them every day. You go to a car show, you see it. Okay, I'm going to make it like that car. Mm-hmm. But a race car, there's badging and there's graphics and colors and things like that, and a lot of the different pictures that you get, different time of day, different country, different lighting, makes it difficult. So you kind of have to take them all, put them together and shake it out, and then say, okay, well, which one is as close to the one that I want to build?
Frank asked a good question, by the way. He said, for some reason, this is one of those that show hide. I don't know what the deal is. Another moderator just handles. But he says, how would you like to be one of those Zero pilots? Go back and explain to the Emperor. That actually was a problem for the fighter pilots. I mean, some of them survived the war, but it was like, Yeah, they were hauled on the carpet. How could you let this happen? Well, there were 16 P-38s to begin with, you know. But no, in fact, Steve, since you bring that point up, you know, I built that 64 Polara, which is a two-door with the Hemi, but I wanted to turn it into my grandmother's car, which is a four-door, and I am not the modeling muse, who's still the person I hate most on the internet because he makes this complex workflow so freaking so. That guy is a master model builder, and I'll never forgive him for that. But if you guys haven't seen the modeling, it was the modeling muse, right? That's his.
Yep.
He uses sprue as his putty. Goes in with a hot knife or something, just puts sprue in there and melts it in place. I'm like, that's cheating. And when he's done, he makes these works of art, and he makes it look. So he sits there at his dinner table. I'm sitting here in the tarbus with mess everywhere, trying not to turn it, to throw my hot knife in the wrong place and go up in a ball of flame. And he's sitting on his dinner table, not even spilling anything. I'm like, that's not right. I am convinced that he's a Greek god. But anyway, just here on Earth for vacation. But he does magnificent work.
He is a good friend of Keeler's.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Keeler designs them, he builds them. But the thing is that I see the work that he does, and I wanted to make my grandmother's car into a Ford, that Lindbergh Polara kit, which, by the way, guys, after Totive took over Lindbergh, they became a whole new company. I know we all joke at Lindbergh for the quality of some of their kits, but after Totive took over, they put out some really good car kits. And that 64 Polara is one of the finest car kits I've ever built. And I built a Johan. But anyway, I wanted to match the color, and I didn't even come close. I just wound up using bronze because basically I got lazy. I didn't try to convert it into four-door because I realized the top and everything was different. And there's, as Harry Callahan said, man's got to know his limitations. So the color, some glue troopers told me it's something like a champagne is the name of it or something. It was that weird, I put a picture of it, is that weird sort of pale grayish color. And it had I learned a lot about the Polara building the model, more than I ever knew when I drove the car. And I'd been underneath that thing wrenching on it, but I didn't realize that with the Dodges of the mid-60s era, the Polara, you have that trim package that goes around, goes to the headlights, comes down and goes back. And if all you get is that trim hook, then it's like the baseline. But if you have the two little metal prongs that go inward like a backwards double E, that means you've got like the V16 engine, or what was that engine the Polara had in it that was the V8 that was so popular?
Well, it had 413.
Okay. Apparently, if you have in the Polara if you look up by the side of the car just behind the headlight, that trim goes like this. But if you have the two little pieces that stick in, that was like Dodge's indicator that you had the upscale engine. And I didn't realize that car actually had a very big engine. And by the time I got it, it was a hand down from my grandmother. She'd driven it 35 miles per hour so long, the carburetor developed a really nasty flat spot. And because in those days we didn't have computers controlling them. But I digress. Point I'm getting at is I could not find the color, and then people told me somebody actually sent me the 1964 Dodge color palette, and it's that one. I was like, oh yeah, that is the color. But I'm sorry guys, another tangent. What I meant to say was all I had was two old photographs to go on, and of course it's hard to match the color because first off, you're talking about a Kodak Instamatic from the late 60s, taking in moderate light. So, and now those photos, oh dear God, those photos are 50 years old. Where did my youth go? Anyway, that makes it really hard. Imagine I handed that photograph to you and said, make this for me. And like, best guess on what the color is. That photo is 50 years old. It was taken by a cheap camera and moderate light. I mean, really? And the paint was dead by then, so.
Hence the beauty of digital imaging.
But again, like you say, it gets really. And like I say, let's suppose I said, hey, Steve, I want this NASCAR. Well, you and I both know that up until probably the 80s, Today, of course, any NASCAR car's got 1,000 photographs of it online, taken with excellent cameras and perfect lighting. But up through the 60s and the 50s, 60s, and 70s, most of them were black and white. And the ones that were in color were probably some kind of technicolor, hey, do color me blue, or color me gone. You got to just make a best guess. Even in the magazines, the photographs were enhanced. So, what would you, God, what did they make? 10,000 different NASCAR paint jobs. They paint them between races. Oh, you want Smokey Yunick's car? Which race? Because he repainted the thing all the time.
And now it's easier because they do wraps.
Well, it's only gotten easier with time.
Yeah.
If I said make me a model of a Tesla truck, that's a no-brainer.
Nobody has a model of a Tesla truck.
What would you say is the hardest part about painting cars?
Real cars or model?
Model cars.
It's getting the paint to go on right and be smooth with no runs and no orange peel,
So it's the finish.
Yeah. Because that's what people look at.
Yep, just like an airplane, the first thing they look at is the canopies in the cockpit. I get that. And I saw a guy who went at Model Palooza, won first place paint job. He had this, and I saw the car. It was beautifully done. He was shocked that he won. And I remember talking about, they're like, how did you get that perfect finish? And he talks about the number of times that he painted, sanded, wet sanded, repainted, wet. Yep. And it just became this laborious. Now, he won, but I'm like, good God, man, the work that goes into it. You've seen these model cars. They have little lamps on them and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm I have no idea how they're doing this because they are definitely not doing it like the HBI guy.
Well, a lot of guys are using car paint.
Wow, that's hardcore.
A lot of guys are using car paint through an airbrush, and then they wet sand it, and they sand it with different grits of sandpaper, just like they do a real car when they paint it, and then they polish it. And then they put, 5 or 6 coats of clear on it, and then do the same thing to the clear, and the thing looks like a piece of glass.
But it never works with a metal finish. The clear works with paint, but clear always dulls a metal finish. The only thing you can do with a metal finish to keep it bright, as far as I know, is not coat it. But then you have to handle it with white gloves because the stuff never really hardens all the way.
And the problem is, if you have a white car that you're doing, you never want to put clear coat on it because it turns yellow over time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Getting back
to... I'm kind of against the... some people put their decals on first, then they clear over the decals. I don't subscribe to that. I get the paint right and then just put the decals on. I don't clear the decals. Because sometimes the decals don't react well to the clear. And
that is absolutely. I have seen more times than I can count. What you need to do is, as soon as you're done, is put it in one of those glass boxes so no dust or anything can get to it.
Yeah.
And keep it in a room where it's nowhere near. My wife, all of our paintings in the house, the artwork, because we have some real artwork here, like the artwork that Mike gave me and the one that Troy White did for me. None of that's anywhere near a window. We just replaced a painting in our living room because my wife noticed it. And she liked it, that years of the sunlight coming through just deadened it. So
that's why all my stuff's in the basement.
And then go ahead.
Yeah, but no, go ahead.
That brings up another point. The instructions on the Betty Bomber, I was told to paint it gray, given the source I got, and then another source, several sources said it was supposed to be light green. Well, all the photographs that I found were, of course, black and white. But it does turn out that apparently a Japanese aircraft should be light green inside. But and somebody was also saying that the top windows should have a faint yellow tint to them. There's no color photos to verify that with, so I don't know how he came up with that. All the photos, they look like the top windows may have just a hint of tinting on them. That's a hard thing to confirm. Again, getting the details right. And the other thing is, Tamiya gives you your standard black instrument panel. That's not right. The instrument panel is supposed to be the same light green as the rest of it, with only, except for the centerpiece, only the instruments cut out. And I found a bunch of photos that show that they put this light green cover over all the instruments, so only instrument faces are black. So I guess Tamiya didn't want to deal with that, so they just made your typical black instrument panel for it. But if you're a hardcore detailer, you know that part's wrong, and that brings up some questions about detailing the airplane, and depending on how down in the weeds you want to get to it. But I was just like, it's hard to do Japanese or a lot of World War II aircraft because so many photos are black and white, and you're just left guessing. And people say, well, this is the color. Okay, based on what? There's no Bettys left. The only closest thing to a Betty that's left in the world is basically a rebuilt mock-up from a destroyed fuselage. But
and like you said, the film back then was really horrible.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Fuji became a film manufacturer.
Really?
Was that they were a licensee of Kodak, and Kodak could not produce film that would work in the humidity in Japan. And so they pulled out. But Fuji had all this equipment. They figured out how to make film that would process in the humidity, and that's the beginning of how Fuji became, a power in the photo business. And if you notice, if you took the same color picture with Kodak film and Fuji film,
Mm-hmm.
the Fuji colors are much brighter than the Kodak film
Oh.
because of the chemical makeup of the film.
Well, there was one thing a glue trooper told me. He said that where the decals had broken off and those yellow decals on the leading edge of the wing, he goes, if you wanted to be primer, Japanese primer was pink. Well, I remember the Japanese had run out of primer after we bombed their factory, I think in 43 or 44. But planes maybe before that, I wasn't sure I found out, but then I found this photograph, and although the bottom's yellow, apparently that is exposed primer. So it appears he was right that this reddish pink color was the proper color for primer on Japanese aircraft, although it's not uniform. But and I
Was
assume there's
Was Seaman Hornsby helping them?
But that is not Yamamoto's airplane, by the way. But there are several Betty crashes with the plane. Actually, most of them are just left behind. And good God, can you imagine the value of one of those things if you had one in flying condition today? That'd be a $10 million airplane just for rarity. That's the kind of thing you'd want to take to air shows and show off. But so there are, of course, this photo was taken 70 years later, but still, at least you wonder, people, and I guess they have the books on it, and God bless the research. What are you living in?
Should I throw some dopamine at you, Steve?
Yes, I saw it.
What?
I'm
Steve,
not getting bored.
I have cough medicine. So, but detailing a kit, or trying to research a kit, I should say, to get the details right, especially military hardware, becomes a nightmare. Especially because the stuff, militaries are constantly, because they're all about the mission. So whatever the mission requires, so they're constantly modifying equipment. Imagine, Ken, if I want to make a model of your sailboat. I'm pretty sure it's not 100% like the way it was the day it came off the, out of the factory.
Guaranteed. No, I've made changes to it. The previous owner made changes to it. Oh yeah, it'd be different. I just thought of something though, as far as trying to match colors of real things on models. You remember when you did that G-scale engine for me, the Erie Lackawanna?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were trying to match the color up.
Yeah, I messed that up pretty bad.
Well, not too bad. But one of the interesting physics of when you model something is that, I think I might get this right, that even though it's the exact same color on a model, it looks a few shades darker.
When you scale it, yes. I've heard
Yeah.
that, and I've heard people argue that that's not true, and I've heard people argue that it is true, and I don't know. Can't upgrade, get a destroyer?
Max and I saw a battleship I wouldn't mind having.
We also, Ken saw his first aircraft carrier. We went to the Nationals. Well, John Wayne's personal yacht was a retired, was it a minesweeper?
Minesweeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you just never know.
Knowing the Duke, it probably had a 5-inch on the front.
Well, and that's another thing is that a lot of ships, in fact, I'd say most warships, stay in inventory so long. I'm sure most of the people, if you're watching this, a lot of you guys are familiar with Drakeniefeld, the British guy who does all the ship videos. And he shows the life of these ships, all the programs they go through. Man, they don't look, except maybe for the hull, they don't look anything like they did when they were made. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to recognize them.
Well, how many times do they paint them? You know, I mean, they're painting a ship at sea.
Well, that's an
every couple
anti-rust
of years.
measure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, chip and
So,
paint.
you know, the paint's different from, you know, whatever manufacturer has the lowest bidder. And, you know, how they match the color, and it's going to be always a little different.
But one of the problems you run into with ships from the Second World War is that a lot of the vessels, the Fletchers and the like, that were made during World War II, stayed in the post-war Navy. Think about the technological advances that took place. So you've got this destroyer that's made with 5 single 5-inch turrets and a basic radar, blah, blah, blah. Well, now they're going completely different. They're ripping off gun turrets, putting in missile systems, yanking all down the antennas, putting up all these different radar masts. Now it's a guided missile cruiser or something. And you look at it and you're like, you would not recognize it from its World War II configuration. Maybe it's got one gun on it for up-close threats. Is Max said McMahon?
Yeah.
No, that's Steve's job. But
Here's
Johnny. Let's see.
That used to be my job.
Ken, the Navy's decommissioning a bunch of cruisers. Maybe you can get a low mileage one cheap. First off, there's no such thing. I know what they did to those ships. One of the guys I had to fly with, he'd been a helicopter pilot on a Spruance class. And, man, I'll tell you what, one of the best things about being an airline pilot is you fly with all these guys that were in various branches of service, and you learn a lot about life on a ship or stuff like that. And,
'Cause you guys got nothing else to do up there.
well, one of the things you talk. Well, I'll give you an example. Well, really, when we're supposed to be, when the plane's being flown by George, you know, and you're like, you got 3 hours before you have to start your descent, so you're kind of staring out the window. Don't get me wrong, I love looking at the clouds and the sky as it goes by, but after a while, I mean, you've seen the Permian Basin so many times, you know, and although that was before I'd watched the series Landman. If you guys ever seen that Taylor Sheridan
So I just
series,
finished
Landman.
watching the first series. It's really good.
Really good. Now, if I was there, yeah, I bet Tommy works down there, so that must be the patch. But one of the guys was telling me that on the Spruance class, there's an old saying in the Navy, and my grandfather was a Navy man, and I think there's some truth into it. The bigger the ship, the better the food. What?
Ken, I heard
Yeah, brown
you can get
shoes versus black
Venezuelan-
shoes, yeah.
I heard you can get Venezuelan boats cheap.
I'm an Adams Class 10 can writer. I'm not sure, but I think the destroyer that they have as a museum ship here in Jacksonville is an Adams Class. But he was saying that after the first couple of weeks, all the fresh food's gone. You know, because you're on destroyer. So all the so everything's coming out of a can now. So the quality of the food nosedives after a few weeks. Now, if you're on a carrier, which is getting a carrier onboard delivery airplane bringing stuff all the time, you know, then the food stays a lot better. Submarines are noted for having a lot of good food, but you got to keep the bubbleheads happy because God knows you're putting them in a metal tube underwater for 6 months. You better. Food's about the only real joy they have, and because there's no frickin' privacy on those things. But but he talked about how, you know, being the helicopter pilot on the ship was actually an advantage because you got to get off the ship a little bit. But I feel sorry for the guys that are stuck, you know, on a destroyer for months at a time. And the one of the scariest stories from a naval helicopter pilot came about because of that. Because like things like ice cream and fresh milk, you know, after a few weeks, that stuff becomes rare. So they tell this old the frog, the CH-46, the Sea Knight, the baby Chinook. You know, the Airbus, when you land on the carrier, people don't appreciate, unless you've worked on a carrier, how busy an aircraft carrier flight deck is. I mean, it's basically JFK. But you got one runway for landing. And when the planes go out, they're burning fuel, so they got to come back and land. When they come back, they have got to land. They'll push an airplane over the side if they have to. So he's doing the Pony Express, the resupply mission from the cruiser, out to the cruisers and destroyers. So he lands. At the last minute, the guy runs up and goes, "Hey, can you take 300 gallons of fresh milk?" Well, fresh milk was like gold to those guys after a couple of months at sea. Problem is, nobody knew how much fresh milk weighed. And they assumed that's probably the same as water. Sure, he does the math. Yeah, we can take 200 gallons. They take off. The air boss like, "Get off my deck! I got jets coming in." So load, go, 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 go. They go off the front of the helicopter. They go off they take the helicopter and start moving forward. And they're in ground effect over the deck, and as soon as they go off the deck, they just head for the ocean. And fortunately, the pilot was a crusty old salt who'd been in that helicopter forever. When he starts pulling on the collective, it overloads everything, so to get extra power to the rotors, both generators jump offline to deload the engines. The pilot has been flying this thing long enough. He knows that those tandem rotor helicopters, they actually perform better if you kick them a little sideways so both rotors are biting clean air. So he kicks about 15 degrees into the pedal and turns that thing over, and they're just heading for the water. The generators have shed. The engines are doing nothing but driving the rotors at this point, but he knows not to overpull the collector or the rotors will slow down and go right in the water. And the guy was a maestro of his machine. And as the non-flying officer, the pilot not flying, all he can do is count off the altitude. 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet. And they're all getting ready to go splash. And when he says 10 feet, he just 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet. So the guy's got it level and ground effect over the water, which overcome the inertia of it dropping is no small task. And they just fly for the horizon at 10 feet above the waves. Everybody in the carrier just saw the thing disappear off not the bow, but the angle deck. So they're convinced, oh shoot, they're all looking over the side of the ship looking for twisted rotor blades. And then somebody shouts, and they're off on the horizon, 10 feet above the water, is this frog, the CH-46 flying along. And as it builds up speed and inertia, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. And, and because the pilot is just like this. Just zen with everything. They flew 3 miles to get to 100 feet. Get up enough inertia. They flew around till they burned off some fuel, and they were to land on a destroyer and offload the milk. Which the guys were like, "Oh, thanks for the milk." It's like, never mind that we all almost died. Turns out milk weighs like 8.6 pounds.
Yeah, it's almost the same
gallon.
as fuel.
Yeah, so they were several hundred pounds overweight on an old, tired CH-46 and a nice, hot Mediterranean day, That's like, and this gentleman has how unsung heroes are born. Because nobody said anything.
Peter Pimentel said,
Hotel?
what was he talking about?
Helicopters, man. Helicopters. You guys take over. I'm going to beg a second. I ran out of cough medicine.
Oh, well, thanks for the warning.
Which is code. Everybody knows what the code means, but we're gentlemen, so we don't say it.
You should keep a bottle there.
Did that one time. Got BSD, so I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Oh, okay.
Also known as CHD.
So are you rationed when you go on the other room to get more? Oh, okay.
I'm sneaking out.
Okay.
I'm going to be very stealthy.
I have this knack of just saying the wrong thing.
Too honest for my own good.
Yeah.
It's a gift, Ken. It is my superpower. You guys hold down the fort. Mock me while I'm gone. I'll be disappointed if you don't.
So, guys, what are we working on for that Tamaya build that's coming up at I believe, the end of the month?
I have no idea. Send Max some Crown Royal. Bob Ford does not want
Not
it in
wanted in
Ontario.
Ontario. I think Ontario doesn't want Bob Ford.
Yeah, don't mix the cough medicine with dinner.
So I guess nobody's working on anything for the Tamaya build at the end of the month.
Hmm.
How about you, Ken?
I got a Tamaya kit.
And are you've got that tank you're working on?
Yeah, it's
Oh, you can't see it. Oh, there you go. Okay. It's
sitting right there.
There you go.
Yeah, someday, in the not too distant future, I'll work on it.
Oh, we got
It's
some
right
nice
here.
stuff here.
Right next to my desk.
Ricky's way ahead of the curve. Ricky already submitted. Fred's doing a 0 and 1/48th. Ray's doing a Sherman. Hoppy's doing an Aston Martin and a Capri. A Ferrari F50 from Kudakilla. MiG-15 by Peter. JD's doing a Raiden. Oh, Garfield's got a HWS Prince of Wales and a German armored car, a Sheridan tank, and the Repulse. Frank did a Focke-Wulf 190.
And Emperor 175.
Brian's doing a Gloucester Media. That's a new kit from Tamaya, I think. An Embraer 175. No Tamiya kit for me this month from Lance. Sluggo, I hate Mustangs also. Okay. Roy's doing a 911 Turbo 88.
I'm building a resentment.
Roy's doing a 65 Lotus F1 car. Oh, Brian's doing a Shinden. JP's doing a 48 scale Volkswagen staff.
Speaking of Shinden, I wonder how that Shinden that Max gave to that guy at Hurricane Hobbies is coming along with it.
Yeah, he hasn't mentioned that lately. Should ask him that when he comes back.
Yeah, I think I will.
Because he's been over to Hurricane Hobbies a couple of times in the last week and a half.
Hmm.
So
Must be nice to be retired.
Yeah, and living 3 miles away from a hobby shop doesn't.
And 3 miles from a hobby shop, yeah. Life is good.
You know, I live 30 miles from my hobby shop, and every time I go there, they tell me how any day now we're going out of business. I'm like, great. Yeah. So is this like a ruse to get me to stock up? You know?
How many years have they been telling you that?
They've been telling me that mostly the last 8-9 months.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of sort of tailed off.
Mine captain is back.
Yeah.
There he is.
So, do you have any idea what an act of industrial magic it is for someone my size to sneak in and out without making any noise to refresh your drink? Because we keep the bar right by the bedroom. Brilliant.
There you go.
Got a question for you.
You.
What's the progress on that Shinden you gave to that guy to build?
I got to get up with him and find out. I do know he was very impressed with it. The workmanship. For those who don't know, I gave Brett the Zuikimura 148 scale Shinden that I bought at the Nats from Zuikimura. And he said it'd take him a long time, a couple of months, because he's got other projects. But he did get started, and he was amazed at the quality. It's equal to or better than Tamiya. And if anybody give Tamiya a run for their money, it'd be Zuikimura. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of people are big Hasegawa fans, and I don't want to knock them. They make great kits, but I personally have found them to be a little overpriced, and that the Tamiya kits are better. That's my, something I was going to mention. I could get the model off the shelf. It's probably easier to go dig up a picture.
Maybe you can get Brett to give you some pictures of his progress so far.
I could see about that. I could text him about that. So Frank,
a Shinden shindig.
Frank Sabo sent me these airplanes. I was going to talk about the mistake I make. These are what are you laughing at?
Celebrating vintage model kits. Listen, Max, I don't believe anything Ken said about you. You wouldn't do that.
Oh, trust me, Eric, I would. But these are the Atlantis P-39 Air Cobra Cobra 2 race kits. And when I made the video today, I put King Cobra as a sign over it. Let me explain. These were actually P-39 Air Cobras, but they had the four-bladed prop and I think the engine off the more powerful King Cobra, which had the same layout. It was a follow-on to this airplane. So I wanted to correct that one thing. That's how they managed to win air races in these things. They basically jammed an oversized engine, a four-bladed prop on a lighter airplane. This thing even managed to beat the Mustangs. And he also sent me some decals for the red one. Also, Eric, since you're here, let's talk about.
I want to interject here for a second. I
Yeah,
have a
go
question
ahead.
for- An aeronautical question.
Mm-hmm.
Why are the landing gear on the Cobras so long when it's a low wing?
Prop
gear.
clearance. The nose gear is long because it had because the bottom of the airplane sweeps up and it's got to keep the propeller clear of the ground, including when the shock absorber compresses. You know, you see it extended in the air because all the weight is off of it, so it extends. On the ground, it's much shorter, but you have to be very careful not to get a prop strike. Remember, this is one of the first tricycle geared airplanes, fighter planes. Up to this point, most of them were they call conventional or tail wheel, like the Mustang that's behind it. So that wasn't an issue. But with this airplane sitting horizontal, basically level on the ground, you have to have a long nose gear to to keep them, because you got to remember that thing's going to compress on landing. So it's got to be able to take the full shock absorber stroke, close all the way to the stops, and not get a prop strike.
Okay. It just seems like it's excessively long for some reason.
It's one of the reasons they shied away from. Also, a lot of extra weight. But a lot of pilots liked it because they could see where they were going when they taxied. Everything's Kent is just like boats. Everything is a compromise.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But with the engine in the back, I think they wanted the tricycle gear probably because so much weight was to the rear. It was an interesting concept, and actually, the P-39 doesn't get much love. It's a great ground attack aircraft because the engine wasn't up front where everybody's shooting at you, where the radiator you get knocked out so easy. And the Russians had great success with them. And some of them had a 37 millimeter cannon in the nose. So the airplane had as long as you played to its strengths, the airplane, and of course had a door instead of a canopy. There's pluses and minuses to everything, but it had a very tight cockpit, and of course the propeller shaft is running through between your ankles. But none of these airplanes had any room. I've sat in some of these fighter planes, and if I had been a pilot in World War II, anything near my size, that had either been a bomber or a transport. There's no way you're squeezing my fat bahunkus into a fighter. Maybe a Thunderbolt.
The A4s are really tight.
Oh, I sat one of those too. Yeah, I couldn't even fly one of those things, and I'd thought about buying one at one point. So Eric sent me this. This is the Comet, followed by the Aurora Beach 18. Or excuse me, Super 18 with the long nose. And my brother had, I think, the larger scale Aurora kit of one of these when he was a kid. I remember it came without one of the engines. But I have a real conundrum here because the kits are identical except for the Aurora kit being molded in silver and the Comet kit being molded in white. As you guys know, around, was it 62 or 63, Aurora got Comet's molds. This airplane comes with a stand because it's only a wheels-up kit, which is ironic because the Aurora shows it sitting parked on the ground with the air stair out. You don't have that option unless you want to start kit bashing, which, and frankly, wouldn't be all that hard. But I'm in a bit of a quandary. I have both of the kits here, and a big part of me wants to build them, and a big part of me says, don't you dare. And I know most of the glue troopers operate under the philosophy of models are made to be built, but there's a few of them out there that are like, no, it's just too valuable, too rare.
Are you planning on ever selling it?
No.
Well, then what difference does it make?
I know, and realistically, it probably doesn't. But one of the things I thought I would point out is that I have them right here. Here's the Aurora kit, and you see how small the box is. And I think that's a Mort Kunstler artwork, and I could be wrong, but I believe I put this box art as one of my 10 favorites ever. And of course, here's the same kit from Comet, who had a larger box, and I think one of the things I love about kits like this, not only obviously the nostalgia, like I said, my brother had the bigger one, which I think used the same box art, by the way, but it's also there's a simplicity to them. They're very straightforward. I mean, this thing came out. I think this came out in '56, but this is a later issue. This is the last issue, so this one would have been made about '62 or '63, which is ironically about the same year that this one was made. Once Aurora got the molds, the real difference between this one and the original is the original had a flip top box, and this is a regular, just regular box.
Vintage Model says the instructions are printed on the box.
Yes, they are. That's another difference. Here are the instructions. It's actually a little video I made to push tonight's live stream, and just an exploded diagram. Which quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. Whereas Aurora went ahead and hold on, I'm sure.
What is there, 12 parts to the whole kit?
No, 20, if you include the stand. The airplane has 17. You're close. But Aurora actually has kind of a surprisingly nice little instruction sheet. It's got the exploded diagram with actually several stages, and it's got 2 photos on that, plus, by Aurora. Is it like blue or something? The Aurora's got to switch glasses. Aurora styrene plastic cement, which I don't think I ever even saw in my whole life. Real Aurora styrene plastic cement. But oh look, mail this coupon in 10 cents for your new Aurora full color 32-page collector's catalog of hobby kits.
Eric says he sent you both so you would build one and save one.
Now, okay, in that case, I'm saving the Comet and building the Aurora, because the Comet's older and it's the original. And quite frankly, I tell you what I was thinking about doing is
yeah, I saw that too.
What?
Go ahead, Steve.
Frank Swain says, exploded diagram, quote unquote, showing what it looks like after the firecracker goes off.
I had considered, since it comes with a stand, making it like the old desk. You remember the old silver metal desktop airplanes? Mm-hmm. I thought I would just go ahead and build the kit and then shoot the whole thing in a high gloss chrome. Steve, if you're going to yawn, duck your head, turn your whatever. But I was instead of trying to detail it, I was thinking about making it a like a solid chrome job instead of trying to detail. Although I have to admit, though, quite frankly, the detail on these things isn't bad.
Mm-hmm. Frank Field wants to know if that's to the West Hempstead address you would be.
It is. It is. Yes, it is. And it actually says West. Okay, Steve, you'll appreciate this. I read that earlier. And in fact, I think I got the picture right here. No, wrong picture. It says West Hempstead, Liny.
Eric says he's going to send you a scale billboard to fly it through.
Okay. Can you read that address where it says? Hold on, let me expand this a little.
What is it, Cherry Valley Road in West Hempstead?
No, it says this kit is molded of styrene plastic. Use only Aurora's fireproof styrene cement and Aurora's speed dry enamel. Assure yourself a perfect model every time. Copyright 1963. Aurora Plastics Corp. West Hempstead, Liny. Made in USA. Litho in USA. So Long Island, Nueva York.
You know what's there now?
Nothing.
A supermarket.
I wonder if anybody ever gets one of these things.
What's that?
Somebody actually cuts the coupon out and sends 10 cents in.
I have
when
to
I was a
admit,
kid,
Ken, part of
I
me
did
thought
that when
about
I was a
doing that
kid.
just to see what would happen, but the post office will just send it to the dead letter file.
I did that when I was a kid.
No,
cut the
I did
thing
it when I
out.
was a kid. If you sent it
Yeah.
now, it would just go to the
Yeah.
the post office's dead letter file. So I'm going to build the Aurora kit. I say that now, it's funny. I can make command decisions flying a jet, bad weather, low fuel, malfunctions, and I'm do this, do that, needle ball airspeed, and be the hero, and the little old ladies quit fingering their rosaries when I walk through the aisle and put my relax, my last soul will be well. But you ask me which one of these I want to build, and I sit there sucking my thumb going, I don't know.
I remember when Revell used to have the whole list of parts by number on the instruction sheet. And if you were missing one, you circled it and you mailed it into Revell and they would send you the part.
Yeah, I tried that with Monogram. I'm still waiting on the 50 caliber machine gun for my M3 half track. They
Well,
left that whole runner tree out.
I guess Besser and Reeder weren't, up to sending it that week.
You're not conning me, kid. You want another runner tree, you're going to pay for it.
Peter says it sounds like Max has been drinking too much of his medicine.
Oh, we haven't even gotten wound up.
Not since you said a little bit too much about JetBlue and had to take that one down.
And what are they going to do, Ken? Fire me?
Not now.
My money in the bank. Of course, he could take away my travel benefits, but the last couple of times I've traveled, I bought tickets. God, that's embarrassing to say.
And you had to sit in the way back.
Well, the worst, but they're just not going where I want to go. I want to go to Burbank to see Mike. We don't go to Burbank, so I went on Southwest. Did go out of L.A. and rode on us for free, but God, I'm going to
So
miss.
what's it like sitting in the back, Max?
Uncomfortable.
Let me tell you something. The other night, I was just thinking about what it used to be like to fly. And I remember going on the plane where you had your own row.
That happens still sometimes.
I
I had
remember
an old row
that.
coming back from Burbank, from L.A. There were only like 100 people on the plane.
No, but that used to be the norm. You'd get on the plane, you'd have your seat, and you'd take off, and then you'd look around, the plane would be half empty, and you'd just pick an aisle, a row, and you'd go back there.
Well, back before 78 and deregulation, when you had regulated airlines and fixed prices, that was a different story. And
Shoot, I was on a 767 when I flew up to Alaska. There must have been only 30 people on the entire plane.
yeah, it happens. By the way, well, not to get off onto the airlines, but I cannot help but read stories about airlines when I see them. And Ken, I watched your thing, the rehearsal. I watched one episode.
Yeah.
I understand why you enjoyed it. I don't want to trash mouth it or anything, but it was like watching myself go to work. I don't need to see this. And the fact that they were all actors and everything, and gosh, what are the odds that United Airlines did not want to have a comedian making a quasi-documentary in their crew room? Yeah, I can sort of see where they're coming from. The fact that he made his own airport, and I'm like, it's just not the same thing. Those aren't pilots, they're actors. Yeah, stalking the crew, that's the part that worried me. That got into the weird. For those who don't know, there's a TV show called The Rehearsal. And the second season, they basically... Can you explain it? I'm going to step over here for a second.
It's on HBO Max. It's basically this guy's interested in how the pilot and first officer communicate with each other, especially when the pilot is doing something that the first officer doesn't like, and the dynamics between the two, and whether or not the first officer really feels comfortable overriding his captain, and is that a safety issue?
This is the hat that Eric sent me. This is a United Airlines captain's hat. So I'm going to find a nice place to display this. I just thought I'd show that to you because it was United Airlines was the airline we were talking about. Of course, this is back when they had the brown uniforms. I don't think they use
You
that
look like
hat
one of the
anymore.
village people with that on.
Da da Taco Bell, ba 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 ba.
Engine alert.
Da 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 da, the Taco Bell. But United Airlines, is one of the only. You guys probably know this, but you realize of all the legacy carriers, all the airlines we grew up with, United, Delta, and American are the only three names that are still in existence. And United and Delta are the only two that are actually the real airlines because, American got bought out. Their name survives. And, I mean, the airline, their people are all still there, but it's under what used to be America West leadership. And I've been working on I'm not going to tell them, Steve, so I'll just say project. Because that thing has hit a brick wall. I find people who undertake that kind of project, I'm getting a newfound respect for. And Mike offered to help me with it, but I'm coming to the conclusion maybe this will make a better series of videos. It's play to my strength.
Yeah.
Besides, who reads what's anymore?
Stay with what you know.
Yeah. So, huh?
The crowd says, Max, number one son says your hat is the Panamanian Field Marshal cap.
I do look a little Manuel Noriega in this, I gotta admit. Yeah, he's got something there. Mis amigos!
Here, Barry's talking about 2 weeks after 9/11. His wife and his brother were going to Germany. The plane was so empty they put him in business class to help balance the plane.
Yep. Well, when they came out with these, you guys know for 5 years I was an FFDO, a federal flight deck officer, with one of the pilots that was authorized to carry a firearm. And I'm like, wait a minute, I get to fly a plane and carry a gun? Where do I sign?
Way too much power.
And then I started doing it and go, this isn't fun, this sucks. This thing's heavy and you guys won't let me wear it outside the cockpit. Because frankly,
I can't shoot anybody.
You want to stop hijackings? You have pilots walk to the airplane wearing a Cowboy 6 gun and a speed draw rig on their hip, very Clint Eastwood. Hell, we ought to just wear spurs while we're at it.
No,
Come on, yippee-ki-yay!
No, you do it. You have a gun rack down at the end of the jetway before you get in the plane. Let everybody pick a gun and have them sit on your lap.
It's funny you should mention that, Steve, because I did have a thought. Not a gun rack, because some idiot will set the damn thing off by accident. What you need is a whole rack of good old-fashioned, outlawed, lead-filled police batons. Everybody grabs one on their way in. Now, anybody who's ever dealt with an old-school cop knows that one of those slapstick will knock you into the middle of next week. Little old lady could take out Muhammad Ali with one of those things.
And then try and hijack a plane with a box cutter and see how far you get.
You guys see how far we can shove this up your fourth point of contact. Paratrooper term. I think you all know what it means.
They'll be serving your brains for the appetizer of the meal.
One can only hope. Well, it couldn't be any worse than what they actually serve.
That's true.
What's that?
Delicacy.
What was that?
Really good for misbehaving children on the plane.
You got to use the little batons on them. But
Swiss Army batons.
what was that old joke about? There's this apocryphal story that this pilot is taxiing. He goes, "Hey, you guys have a dead raccoon in the middle of the taxiway." And without skipping a beat, some other pilot came on and will notify catering. But anyway, so
Craig says that's how you deal with a Karen on the flight.
Yep.
Yeah, playing the SWAT theme as everybody boards. There you go. I'd like my baton to say, "Come on. Do you feel lucky?"
Yeah, that'd be an interesting psychological study that just to pull a joke on somebody. Everybody gets on the plane with a baton, but the guy, he doesn't know about it, so he's the only one on the plane that doesn't have one.
But again, have a rack there. Have some nice lady at the counter. What is your preference, sir? Baton, taser, or compliance?
Well, no. What you could also do is, when they pre-screen the passengers before they get on, if there's anybody they think is a potential problem, make them wear a red shirt.
With a little gold, yeah. Hey, what is this?
Target on the back.
By the way, speaking of which, do you know why? You know what the Israelis do that no one else is willing to do because of our sensitivities? The Israelis actually profile.
Huh.
They have psychological profilers at the airport watching people's behavior, and you can be denied boarding just because they have a suspicion about you. And
They interview you too. They talk to you for a while before you get on.
you know, a lot of people don't know this. They kept it really quiet, but there was a shootout at the Boston airport a few years ago that really didn't make much news, and some nut job went in, wanted to shoot up the LL counter at Boston Logan. He whipped out a gun. The freaking gate agent at working the counter dropped him and was put on the plane to Israel. And they're like, what? He goes, some goofball came in, went up the LL counter, pulled out a gun. The gate agent pulled out one, dropped him on the spot. They put him on the plane and flew him out of Boston. Flew him to Israel, where he lives to this day. You have to be an Israeli to work for LL. And I'm like,
Probably made him a national hero.
well, no, they kept the whole thing very quiet. And like it barely made a blurb on the local news, you know, and that was it. They just disappeared, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. I didn't. Everybody, of course, me being me, the first question I asked was, what was
What
he
kind of gun
carrying?
did he
Yeah,
have?
what was he carrying?
Yeah.
CC-75, Browning high power, Glock, what? You know, because that thing works. And but they weren't even gonna go through the whole show thing. And they're like, no, get on the plane. You're out of here.
No pesky criminal trial for him.
Yep. Where is he, Israel?
He did
Okay.
get a trial. He had 6 people convict him.
When I heard that, I was kind of, that can't be true. And I did a hint of digging and basically was told, quit digging. And I was like, wow, Mulder was right.
It is true. The truth is out there.
Yeah, that's right. They don't use it. Well, now something I saw on a routine basis. I saw this all the time. LL wide bodies are always parked remotely. They're on the ramp, but they're off by themselves. And there is always 24/7 a security truck sitting there right by the nose gear, watching the airplane. You cannot approach it. You got to give the Israelis credit. They know security, you know, and they don't apologize for it. In fact, if I was going to get Israel, I probably would take LL. That is the safest airline in the world.
One time when I was in Hong Kong, the Pope was making a Pacific Rim tour, and they had terrorists that threatened to blow up airliners and all this other kind of stuff. They parked all the 747s away from the terminal, out near the runway.
Rain guard.
And then they made everybody give them their bags. Then you had to identify your bag. You went up to a counter. They opened your bag, went through your bag. They put it down in a ramp. You went back down to the plane. You had to identify your bag again. They opened your bag again. And then they let you on the plane. They did this 4 times before we took off, because they want to make sure that there was nothing on the plane. And I got to take my hat off to them because I was on the plane,
Well, the worst airline accident in history, Tenerife, I believe it was 1977, if I remember correctly. That whole mess, everything that led to 577 people getting killed, was one punk with a hand grenade.
Yeah.
That's how it all began. Some separatist group in the Canary Islands decided to set off a bomb that was made up of 1 or 2 hand grenades. They set it off in a gift shop. The only casualty was a girl who worked there who got injured, not killed, caught some glass fragments, okay? They were making a statement. And Anybody that knows Spanish history knows that Spain, a lot of people don't know this, but Spain is frequently fighting off these little terror cells that want to, in various parts of the country that want to go independent. They've had this problem for a long time, and the Azores are one of them. Well, as a result of that, all the aircraft that were supposed to land at Las Palmas diverted to the much smaller airport at Tenerife, including Pan Am and KLM. They were never supposed to be there to begin with. The only survivor of the KLM flight, because no one on the plane survived, was a girl who actually lived in Tenerife. She was going to Las Palmas to catch the commuter flight over. When they went to Las Palmas, she just got off the plane. They told her you can't leave for customs. You have to go to Las Palmas and then catch the flight over. When nobody's looking, she just went home. Saved her own life. Sometimes it pays to be the bad girl. You know? Play by your own rules. But that whole thing.
Ooh, Bill Campbell says the Azores are Portuguese, not Spanish.
Apologies. Shows what I know about Europa. I can't even say Europe right. How come it's pronounced Europe, but they call it the like the E pass and the, you know and you know, there's an E on Europe, people. It's Europe. I have spoken, so it shall be said, so it shall be done.
Greg says back in the 90s, I was on Tower charter flight that stopped over in Ireland. We had to stand guard with our M16s.
So what I love is they made us stand guard with empty M16s. That makes
Like,
sense.
that's really useful.
When we did guard duty on the 101st Airborne Division's ammo dumps, which is a thing, and they were nuclear certified. Fort Campbell's bunkers were certified to house nuclear weapons. We didn't have any nukes there, and this is going back to the 50s, you know, when they had the missiles, but they were certified for it. And these were the bomb-proof bunkers, you know, humps in the ground with the gigantic brick walls, you know. And but that is where we kept all of our wartime, our tow missiles and all that stuff. And we had to do guard duty. Now, it's all fenced in. You only had to watch the gate because no one could jump a fence. But they gave us our M16. They put one magazine with 3 rounds, and that went in your ammo pouch. And your instructions were halt, advance to be recognized, blah, blah, blah. If they don't fire one warning shot, that left you 2 rounds to defend all this stuff. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, it was, well, it gets better. Apparently at Fort Hood, Texas, they didn't even give them the 3 rounds. And why you would have a guy guard a facility with an empty rifle, and by the way, it's the division commander that runs the base that makes all these calls. Okay, every base is different, and I get it. Nobody wants to trust a 19-year-old with an M16 and a combat load of ammo. You get bored, and, you know, yeah, let's start. You know, bad things happen. Anyway, I was already out of the Army when this happened. I heard on back when people listen in their car to radios. Guys at Fort Hood were walking their post with their empty rifles, and a couple of rednecks in a pickup truck, who probably were veterans and knew how this worked, walked up with loaded guns and liberated them of their M16s.
Ooh.
Oh, it gets better. They did the exact same thing the following night.
Oh, you got to be kidding me! The base commander didn't say. Oh,
No, I think that was soon to be the former base commander.
Yeah, he's probably with the guy from Stripes in the
Yeah, John Larroquette.
Yeah.
And you notice the photo, he's a first lieutenant in that picture, not a captain anymore.
Yes.
Well, they said the third night they were out there with wooden sticks. Billy clubs, basically. And I'm kind of like, that is the Army. And I get it. If I was the base commander, I just would have, when we stood like motor pool guard, they gave us a wooden stick and a Prick 77 radio. Okay? Because you're 2 guys watching the motor pool. If somebody wants to break in and steal something, the stick was just defend yourself if you got jumped. You weren't expected to intervene. Your job was to get on the radio and tell them, hey, we got somebody breaking in the motor pool. And they could send the military police, who actually had, you ready for this? a .45 automatic, and 5 rounds of ammo. And they
But
did
they said
Israeli carry.
one.
It gets better. They did Israeli carry. They kept the magazine in the gun, but did not chamber a round. So if they pulled out their .45, they had to rack one in the chamber. And they only had 5 shots and no reloads. Welcome to the Army of the late 70s, early 80s. And you know why they did that? Because the Army had too many problems with guys with full loads of ammo doing stupid crap. Because you can't let 18-year-olds go with automatic weapons.
And be bored.
And be bored. I hate to say it, but Ken, that's it in a nutshell. I've got the perfect cure for that.
Yes.
Hire civilian contractors.
There you go. That would do it.
Either load them up or don't give them guns. Just give them a radio and call for help. But when the MPs only get 5 bullets, I know somebody. You're going to love this one.
Because the MPs get bored too.
No, they're actually out doing policing stuff. They do when they're standing at the gate. I saw an E5 standing the post. You know, when you come through, they wave you through at the gate. They look for the sticker on your car, and they wave you through. I saw an E5 standing at the gate. He actually wrote me a ticket that I got out of. And they would say, wait a minute, E5s don't stand gates. Okay, that's lower enlisted job. And he's like, if an E5 standing at the gate, he's a royal screw up. And they put him there to keep him out of trouble. And after having dealt with this guy, I have no doubt that's exactly what he was. Don't get me wrong, there were some really cool MPs, but this guy was a moron. And you start to realize, and don't get me wrong, I'm a veteran. I don't like to diss veterans. You know, it is a brotherhood. But anyone who's been in any branch of service will tell you they're not all the sharpest tacks in the box. You know, there's 3 million people in the military. You're going to have your share of duds, just like any other organization.
Sharp as a marble.
Lego says, I'd rather have a claymore than 3 rounds.
Just don't strap it to my chest. Okay, to give you an idea how dumb I was, when I saw it said front toward enemy, that's the enemy, that's the side I turned towards the enemy. I was like, this thing looks like it's backwards, because it is backward, dumbass. You're pointing the claymore at yourself. Well, it says front toward enemy. Yeah, it says that on the back of the thing.
Luckily, we didn't detonate it.
Thank God it was just a training aid. You only got to tell me that one once. And he later went on to fly jet airliners, people.
Was there a time once when you were in Panama? And
Stop, Ken. Stop. That never happened. That never happened. And you can't prove a thing.
And you were in an open truck, or maybe this is just a story you heard about other people, and that's why you didn't ride in an open truck, because as you were going through the jungle, orangutans would jump in and throw everybody out.
I have never heard that in my life.
Really?
No.
Even though you had rifles, because the orangutans knew that you guys, they weren't loaded.
What happened with us was they're called rock apes. Or howler, I'm sorry, in Panama, in Vietnam, they were rock apes. I heard a bunch of stories with them. In Vietnam, they're howler monkeys. Okay? And howler monkeys, because I guess they howl. I saw them. I never really heard them, but they're the thing that happened to us in Panama, and I did catch a glimpse of it. Howler monkeys will come into your tent and start rooting through your stuff, basically looking for something to eat. Plus, they're intensely curious. And apparently, one of them got into a guy's rucksack and literally that monkey could not fight its way out of a paper bag. It couldn't figure out how to get out of the rucksack, so it freaked out and started screaming and started running. So we all look, and it's at nighttime, so you're only catching this, like, it was a moonlit night, so you can sort of, but I see what looks like this haunted rucksack running around, screaming. And we're seeing this rucksack moving around, like, oh. And then finally one of the individuals in my unit apparently motivated it with the butt of an M16. And it found its freedom and a headache and ran away. The rock apes, the story that I heard about the rock apes were, and this guy was there, and admittedly he's a GI, and GIs are great BS artists, but this sounds like the kind of thing that really happens. He woke up. They're all tactical, so everybody, there's no sleeping bag. They're all just sleeping propped up against their rucksacks or against trees. And one of the things a lot of guys did, and we did this in Panama, is you tied a dummy cord to your weapon, to your web gear, so that you couldn't lose your weapon, for one thing, because you're always falling down. But this guy wakes up, and he's playing tug of war with his M16. And this rock ape was trying to take his M16, just not knowing what it was. And he's pulling back, and he and the rock ape are playing a tug of war. So apparently he got his hand on it and let a burst go, and it decided it didn't want to play anymore. But, the Air Force actually lost a bunch of guys to a Tiger in Vietnam.
Never heard that one.
Ironically, it was an Air Force ground ops team that was doing a security patrol, and they racked out for the night tactically, so they were just like, sitting on their ponchos, sleeping on their rucks. And they woke up, and one of their guys was missing. They found a blood trail. Thing was, his weapon was there, and the Vietnamese never left a weapon behind. Okay? And the weapon was there, the guy was gone, they found some remains, and apparently it happened again a couple of nights later. And somebody figured out it's an animal attack. And they brought in a guy who knew how to hunt tigers, and they found the one that did it and killed it. And I was like, going to Vietnam and getting killed by a tiger, that's just jacked up, man. But
says, never get off the boat.
Yeah, never. Exactly. Never get off the boat.
Yeah.
John Kitt made a comment a long time ago about up in Canada they have, a lot of people don't realize, but Canada has bears and things like that leech it. When you head out in the woods, you get amongst the critters, you're just a self-propelled protein. You're a food group. And ask any mosquito in Florida, I walk outside as I'm bloody walking buffet.
Zumi's tried to ride the big kitty.
Hey, a lot of you guys have an apex predator in your house. We laugh at, we love our little kitties, our little house cats. But don't forget, in their world, they're an apex predator. Ask any squirrel, lizard, or canary, or fish. I mean, a fish tank is cat TV.
Oh yeah, they'll sit there for hours and watch those fish.
Oh, Ken, they're not watching; they're plotting, looking for weaknesses.
I saw a sailing video. I think it was last week. They have a young cat on board that essentially grew up on the boat, and there were some dolphins playing around near the boat, and that cat was right there watching those dolphins playing.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, John Ashley, yes, polar bears. In fact, I've heard it said that statistically polar bears are the most lethal land predator. They're the great whites of the land, literally. I watched a documentary where somebody got the bright idea and the polar bears are coming on the ship because it was in the ice. So they would, the crew had to learn to lock themselves in and, padlock. And somebody got the bright idea. I want to get some great footage of these polar bears. What if you put me out in like this shark cage type thing? They had a cage that was, I think, supposed to be able to hold a polar bear. What if you put me in the cage where they can't get to me and slide me out on the ice and they'll come and play and I'll get some great footage? And he did. Okay. There's something you didn't think about. You know what the difference between polar bears? You know what polar bears have that sharks don't? Fingers.
Yeah.
The polar bears are playing with the cage and they're sliding it further away from the ship. We're going to crack this egg once we get out of rifle range. Okay? And there's a guy on the ship with a rifle locked up in there going, they get much further, they're going to be out of range. But the polar bears, once they got him out there, he's like, oh, this is great. He's got this, you can see the thing's tongue right up against the camera. He's like, oh, this is great footage. And once they figure they're far enough out, they take those big claws and they start playing with that padlock. He's like, uh-oh.
Reminds me of that little cartoon I saw once with a polar bear on an igloo and said, oh, I love these things. Crunchy on the outside.
Crunchy outside, chewy center. That is my favorite Larson cartoon.
Meanwhile, when you were in Panama, did you have to deal with the Bushmasters?
Luckily, we did not see a Bushmaster, which is a highly venomous and very aggressive snake. It's in the adder family. our company commander got bowled over by one of those anteater tapir things they have there that apparently when it gets scared it just puts its head down because it's got a real thick skull and just bores full speed through the jungle. And we saw the old man literally feet boots in the air. It bowled him over like a bowling pin. We did have to deal with the rock apes, and but one of our guys, the howler monkeys. Again, I'm sorry, not rock apes. But one of the things they would do is they'd fling their poo at you.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't do it to me, but one of our machine gunners, and I think it was Ford, but I'm not sure, got tired of putting up with their crap. Now, we're armed with blanks, but you can even make a gun with a blank dangerous. Apparently, he took off his BFA, his blank firing adapter, off the M60 and dropped a cleaning rod down the barrel and fired that at one of them. And rumor has it he skewered the thing, but I don't know. They were too far back for me to see. I know that the NCOs were not happy about that, but he got tired of putting up with their crap, literally. And monkeys in the
brother
mist,
told
baby.
me when he was on the Iowa and they went through the Panama Canal, and he said at some point before you get to the canal, it gets kind of narrow.
It does, yeah.
And he said they'd have guys stationed on the deck with M16s, and he said these snakes would drop out of the trees onto the deck of the ship.
Yeah. I've heard that. I never saw it, but I heard. I've been to Panama 4 times, but I heard it was true. And Mr. Black Palm, that's the one you really got to be warned about. They have a palm tree, and you guys can Google this right now. Black palm. It is a palm tree that has these black spikes that grow out of it, like a porcupine. And the old joke is, if you stumble in the dark and put your hand out, you'll meet Mr. Black Palm. And when they're small, the palms are very flexible. When they get big, they're like punji sticks. And they had a lot of injuries from that kind of nonsense. You don't appreciate just how dangerous the jungle is. Like I say, you go out there, you're a food group. And you're hunted by everything. The Bushmaster you were talking about, which is a snake, apparently, being part of the adder family, it's highly aggressive. You can't just stop and it'll go away. It'll come after you. Luckily, I didn't see one.
He said they used to just blow them to pieces.
Oh, yeah. Shoot on sight. Absolutely. Yeah. Kill those things. There's no shortage of them, and they are a threat to human life. They have boars and wild boars and things, which will run away from it. They might bowl you over in the process. But the thing that gets most people in Panama is the heat and humidity. Heat exhaustion is a real problem.
See, kids, this is like a National Geographic episode.
There's your diorama.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch a movie. They got this new movie coming out, or may have come out, where the World War II GIs face the dinosaurs. I think it's called Prehistoric or something like that.
Yeah.
And they got that. When I saw a Kong skull, and remember, I went in the Army in '70, enlisted in '78, went active in '79, just 6 years after Vietnam, 4 years after Vietnam. So when I went and saw Kong Skull Island, oh, by the way, we are 1 hour and 48 minutes into and I haven't said Godzilla. What, you thought you were going to escape? When I watched Kong Skull Island, they were wearing the exact same equipment that I wore in the Army just a few years later. And when I watch Kong Skull Island, I'm sitting there just going, Panama 79, baby. Actually, it was Panama 80, I think. But now,
Wild Kingdom and Styrene.
What? Wild Kingdom and Styrene. You too can build Aurora's line of magical creatures. But there's one part of Kong Skull Island that was just so wrong I couldn't get past it. And this is the old infantryman talking here. I can deal with the 200-foot gorilla. I can deal with all the wild critters. I can deal with the island that nobody's been to. I can deal with Samuel L. Jackson, trying to take on a 400-foot monkey, right? With an M14. The one thing I cannot abide by is out of nowhere, they come up with a Ma Deuce 50 caliber machine gun, barrel, ammo, tripod, and receiver mechanism, when just a few scenes before I saw those guys, all of them moving through the jungle with nothing more than rucksacks. That's 200 pounds of gun. Where did that come from? No. I say nay.
Lance Revell says 148 minutes, a record.
You almost escaped.
I wonder who had 148 minutes.
Yeah, who had the pool?
No, it's an
Probably
hour
bigger than
48.
Powerball.
It was an hour 48. That's 108 minutes. Make sure to play. Make sure to pay the right
Amount.
right winner of the what do you call it, the not the lottery,
Pool.
the
Pool.
the live pool, the Godzilla pool. But
Nothing like giant spider and King Island leg going through a guy.
yeah, that was you. The thing I was like, wait a minute, you got a 400-foot gorilla smashing every helicopter's sight, and you're going to try and do a pararescue? Dude, wait till he leaves. Been a very different movie if Samuel L. Jackson said, okay, everybody climb to 3,000 feet and let's do a Loofberry circle around the monkey. Figure out what we're going to do. Let's not piss it off anymore. But no, I am king of the jungle. Smash. Yeah. Like, first off, you're fighting the wrong critter. But by the way, the Major that was flying the Sea King, or the Jolly Green, which by the way the Army never operated. That was my other thing. The Army never operated Jolly Green Giants or Sea Kings, but they have one in the mix, so they stole it from somebody. But the Major that was flying that was played by Toby Kettle, who was the second in command, he's actually the character who did the mocap work for Kong.
Lance Revell explains it. Max, that's because the script calls for it.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll tell you another one. The director of the movie actually did a YouTube video where people said there's only 5 helicopters on a deck, but you got like 20 of them in flight. And he points to the scene where they fly around the hangar, and there's more of them in the hangar. I went, okay, I'm going to call BS on that because there's 3 of them in the hangar, and they would have to have been rolled out, pre-flighted, warmed up, and off the stern launched one at a time. So no, that does not wash. At the most, you had 9 helicopters on that ship, but you got like 16 of them in flight. They were worse than Space 1999 with the unlimited supply of Eagles.
Unlimited supply of what?
Eagle transporters.
Oh, Eagles. Oh.
They must have blown up 100 of those things during the run of the series. Clearly they had the ability to make them.
Yeah, they must be making them on the moon.
Yeah, but that's right up there with the Hollywood magazine, the Tommy gun that never runs dry, the 6-shot revolver that can carry 1,000 rounds.
The hat that never comes off in the fight.
Yeah. And
Okay, we have strayed a little bit from the original subject.
man, we are so far down the rabbit hole, I'm not seeing daylight anymore. But that's half the fun. This is a gab session.
So the authenticity of kids
Night,
are really
Fran.
up to you.
What, Steve?
The authenticity of kids is really up to what you want to make them.
Getting back to our original thing, yeah. I believe there is a point in time when you when you just have to. I mean, if you're going to compete and they're going to be grading on that stuff and that little trophy's up and board to you, but I think there's a point in time when you just have to say good enough. And it's your satisfaction that matters. You're building the model, hopefully, for you. And if it bothers you that much that something's inaccurate, well, go fix it, because you'll feel better when you do. But if it's one of those things like, no one, the universe will never care, let it go, move on to your next project. The key thing is to enjoy the hobby, okay? There's no reward. You could make the world's most perfect model, representation of anything. And there's a few hundred, or if you're lucky, a few thousand people out of the 5 billion or whatever's on this planet that will be thrilled by that. And if that's your goal, that's great. But ultimately, you're the only one that matters, and the universe isn't that worried about it. I tell my wife when I come in, I'm griping about, I painted this airplane, and then I found out this was wrong. And when I'm all done, I come in, she sits there and patiently smiles and nods. And when I'm all done, I always end with the same thing. Well, if that's the worst of my problems, I'm doing pretty good today.
Yep, true.
So, Steve, real quick before we go, how's your new dog doing?
She's doing real good. She's gonna be a winner.
Warren bonding well.
Yeah, she's
What's her name?
Casey.
Casey. Is that like Casey from the railroad or Casey at bat?
Yeah, you could say that, but yeah.
And
Found her on
she's a beagle, right?
Yep, found her on a beagle rescue, and she's 7 months old.
Well, my sister just notified us today that her cat, Olive, or not Olive, that's a dog, that her cat, Violet, who she's had forever, they had to put her down today. So we've had a lot of pet tragedies lately.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of days.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing better.
Okay.
Like I said, it wouldn't have been so bad had my dog gone from natural causes, but it was an accident and it was pretty horrific. But we'll get through it. But
Yeah.
thanks for asking.
We're all here if you want to chat or anything.
Appreciate it.
When I get my phone back, you can call me if you want to talk.
Well, the fish might give me some points.
I was going to say, your phone's busy talking to the fishes.
SpongeBob will be ringing me up.
Oh my God, Ken, I am so going to put SpongeBob in my caller ID for you now.
Oh, yeah, that makes me so happy to think about that. Yes.
As soon as you get your new phone, give me the number to it. I swear to God, I'm putting SpongeBob on there.
Oh, it'll be same number.
you can keep your number?
Yeah, you can keep the number. Yeah. I ordered it off on Amazon. I got a broken a broken phone.
Yeah, well, it's broken now.
The really sucky part about it is the numbers and the pictures that I have on it. They're gone. Yeah, I can't transfer them over to the new phone.
You didn't upload them to the cloud?
No, I never did that.
Neither do I. I didn't do any of that stuff for the usual paranoid old man reasons. It's not like they don't already have everything. You can Google my name and everything pops up. I'm like, well, that's not mildly disturbing. Privacy is a dead thing. But it's just the idea that I share enough with the interweb as it is. They don't need all my photos.
Who's Skunk Kenny? Not SpongeBob.
I'm Squidward.
Squidward. Oh, okay. I don't know who that is. I don't watch that stupid show.
Oh, it's so stupid. It's funny. I mean, it literally is so stupid. It's funny. But,
Yeah. Fortunately, I do have a phone that's about 3 years old that I can copy pictures and phone numbers off of. And I've added very few contacts to that, so I should be okay. I just lost a few pictures.
Yeah. Sucks, but not the end of the universe. Well, guys, I guess that's pretty much it for tonight.
Yeah.
I have to go do some things with my lovely wife. She gave me a wonderful anniversary and birthday. I didn't do any birthday stuff. They were like, "What do you want for party?" I don't. I don't want just me and Monica and a coconut cream pie and television. That's all I needed.
You're really not handling this aging thing well, are you?
What are you talking about? I'm eating coconut cream pie and spending time with my wife watching TV. That's what getting old's all about, isn't it? And building models. I don't understand how I'm getting less models made now than I did when I had a job, but oh well.
because your wife has more things for you to do. That's why.
But, anyway. Well, guys, I want to thank everybody coming out. I hope you had a good time. We're going to head out now. Steve, Ken, I'll let you say your goodnights and we'll be on our way.
Well, thanks for coming. Spend another lovely 2 hours with us on your Saturday night. Hope you enjoyed the evening as we all did, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks for coming by, guys. We always have a good time, and we enjoy the comments. Some of them are really good. we enjoy the comments. So, yeah, if you got something silly come pop in your head, yeah, just go ahead and put it on there. We read them all. Can't say them all, but we read them all.
Well, guys, I hope you had a little bit of fun tonight. Have a wonderful week. We'll plan to see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care of yourselves, and as always, model on.
Push the button.
Hold on.